the biggest misconception to me is that people think that CIA is somehow behind conspiracies that work against American interests. I get that CIA has secrets, and I get that it's done some kind of crazy stuff like trying to kill people in the past and make Fidel Castro's beard fall off. Like, we've done some zany stuff. You had a guest on here not long ago talking about MKUltra and mind control and experimenting with drugs. Absolutely, CIA has done some wackadoodle stuff. But to ever think that a government organization is working against its own country, against its own people, is absolutely ludicrous. And that's the biggest misconception that I see out there, is there are people who genuinely believe, because of conspiracy theories and otherwise, that there's something to gain from CIA hurting the government, American people, like that people who think it's behind 9/11. It's just insane.
Right. The MKUltra thing's weird because it's not necessarily, I don't think he was saying that they were trying to hurt the American people. They basically were just taking in certain people as test subjects, like prisoners and stuff, and doing wacky experiments on them to try to, gain influence in foreign countries or with foreign leaders.
Yeah, learn how the human mind works, right?
Yeah.
And that's, I think MKUltra is like, that's out there. That's, people know that that's true.
Right.
And the stuff that was done in MKUltra, when it comes to the details, I don't know. If I did know, I couldn't say. But does it make sense that the CIA of the 1960s and 70s would take people who had like lifelong prison sentences and take them out and then subject them to like downers and uppers and all kinds of crazy transitions to see how their brain works? It totally makes sense, man.
Yeah.
But at the same time, they were doing that to increase national defense to all people. I'm not saying it was the right or the wrong decision, but I am saying it makes sense that they would do something like that because they had a justification that was in the best interest of the American people.
Right.
That's what you see with so many things that happen with the agency. I know one of the things that is popular to talk about is Edward Snowden. Snowden's entire story is hinges on the question of whether or not it was legal or illegal for government intelligence agencies to collect information on people, like big data, on cell records and who was talking to who, and record all that information. And it was ultimately discovered to be illegal, so that's a good thing. But the justification was always in the best interest of protecting America. So that's what's so hard to understand about the intelligence world, and that's what drives those misconceptions.
Yeah. So what is your view on the whole Edward Snowden thing?
A
lot of people are against him, saying that he gave up too much information to countries like Russia and China, and other people say that he did what was best for everyone in the country.
Yeah, and when I look at Snowden, I've said this, and I'll say this until the day I die, right? The dude did the right thing the wrong way, right? It's what you see happen mostly like at work or in your family. Like, people try to do the right thing.
Yeah.
There's a noble intent behind what a lot of people do.
Yeah.
But they do it the wrong way. And when you turn to support, when you get support from places like Russia and Cuba and some of the places in Central and Latin America that Snowden got support, that's a big hint. You're dealing with bad guys, right? But you're doing the right thing. To call into question secret courts that landed on the conclusion that it was okay to collect information on the average American, that needs to go up the chain. But there's a chain that you're supposed to follow. There's a series of steps that you're supposed to take to make sure the information, the threat, the hostile actors out there don't know that it's happening. Right. If you recall back in the days when we were hunting Osama bin Laden, I think it was the New York Times came out with a story that was talking about how the intelligence services were following bin Laden based on his use of a satellite phone. And then the next day, guess what? We lost all contact, all ability to trace bin Laden, because this open source newspaper basically told the world that the agency was tracking him through his satellite phone. So we just stopped using a satellite phone and ushered the era of covert communications for Taliban and extremists. And we had to relearn, how do you track these guys if they don't use satellite phones? So there's all this damage that can be done in the intelligence world, the national security world, when people do the right thing the wrong way. If you like this short clip, make sure you click here to see the next clip, or here to see the full podcast episode.